Can't hear you. Jackson, can you hear me?
Okay. Something went wrong. We're good now. The thing started playing again on my feed. I don't know if that worked for you or not, but that was weird.
No. No, it
Okay.
was just silent. That was weird.
All right. Well, I'll do the intro now. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here as always by the guy who just got penalized for cleaning off the floor with a towel. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. There were a lot of penalties, I felt like today. But overall, doing pretty good. We had football back. This was fun. And you know what? Monday is classic week one overreaction day.
Oh yeah.
And it starts right here, baby. We're getting you started right here at midnight. Thanks for tuning in. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, we always love the overreaction show, which is listen, the Wednesday shows we take it seriously. We pay a lot of attention for this stuff. The midnight shows we get off the rails quickly. We say hot takes. This is not the podcast that is analysis. This is our overreaction takes immediately.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically brain dead at this point because we've been watching football for about 12 straight hours. We're just numb to the pain at this point. Actually, it's 11 straight hours, but who's counting? Exactly. I can't even do math right now. So we're just at this point. We're barely functioning. We're getting to it, but we want to give you as fresh a take as possible.
Yeah. So if this is your first time watching one of these recap shows, thank you. Feel free to let comment in the chat, ask us questions. We'll try to make it an interactive show here and there. But the way we always do it is by starting off with the Sunday show. Although I guess a little bit, just general thoughts. Crazy week, I think, Kyle. A lot of weird games. I don't definitely some unpredictable games, but just some odd games as well.
Yes, and it was interesting because you looked at the week one spread, and I wasn't going to go full gambling on it, but there was a lot of home underdogs this week and a lot of big home underdogs. So it was just like, how is this going to play out? I still felt pretty good about a lot of the favorites, and then a lot of the favorites ended up losing or not covering that spread. So it's a pretty fun week, and yeah, like you said, there was a lot of action, and we had games going to overtime right off the bat. We had games coming down to the wire. It was just a crazy that end of the morning slate to the beginning of the afternoon slate. I just thought was crazy stuff going all around.
Yeah. I think the only thing you could probably be disappointed with is the primetime games, and I doubt it's going to get too much better with the Monday night game. But other than that, also some funny divisional stuff. Some funny fun facts have emerged after week one. I think my favorite might be the Seattle Seahawks are currently leading their division because they haven't played yet, and so they are at 0-0, the division leader. I think that is fun. I also like the idea. I also like the fact that every single team in the AFC South lost, even though no team in the AFC South won, even though two teams played each other, which is a good one.
Yeah, it was completely clean slate there. Everyone's still in a chance to win the division. And then, the NFC West, the crazy thing about the NFC West too, is that's a team we're looking at potentially two playoff teams. And maybe if you're buying what the Cardinals are selling, you were thinking three playoff teams potentially, and not a good start for those teams. So there's a lot to take away from this week. I think the big thing, like we said, we're going to get in week one overreactions. We'll probably overreact a little bit, but this is the first. This is you can't take a one take sample size. You can't go from one game sample size and make it a full judgment on teams. We are going to have some reactions to this show, but obviously it's a long season, long way to go for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, exactly right. I think last year I remember arguing with fans that no, the Packers are not dead because they lost 38-3. There still is hope for the Green Bay Packers. Week one overreactions are always very fun. But let's have our week one reactions, starting with, as always, the Sunday night game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Dallas Cowboys, and maybe the most lopsided two-score game of all time.
Yeah, there was several possessions that Tampa Bay just didn't finish off when they were in the Dallas territory. I want to start on the Dallas side for me, though. I'll let you get into Tampa. Okay. That's obviously your team. I'll let you talk about that. The very clear takeaway from this is Michael Gallup desperately needs to get healthy. this receiving core is bad when he's not there because it's just basically one receiver. Or you have CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz. It was bad, and for a team that Dallas Cowboys, what we think of the Dallas Cowboys is they're not the deepest team, but they rely a lot on their star talent. And there's a lot of stars typically on Dallas Cowboys roster. Tyron Smith is out. Amari Cooper's gone. He gets traded. Michael Gallup is out. You look on that side of the ball, there's not a lot of stars left. And now you're looking at a potential point where it's already being reported that Dak Prescott's going to miss multiple weeks. That's going to be a really bleak offense, I think, this season without those guys. And I do think Gallup needs to play, but at the same time, not to get, once again, I said I'm not going to overreact, but with Dak Prescott not out there for multiple weeks, this team's not making the playoffs. It's not going to make the playoffs. And it stinks to say that, but I think it's a fair point to say they might have just lost their entire season in week 1 because their quarterback's out. That's your most important position. Now he's gone.
Yeah, well, I mean, I predicted them to miss the playoffs heading
So
into
did
this. I predicted them to. I predicted them. I think I was very low on the Cowboys, and to be honest, they didn't look like a playoff team in this game. I mean, they looked like a team that was a below 500 team in this one.
They really did. Yeah, I mean, like I said, just the skill position guys. I guess you could say Zeke had a good game. He looked like he
Sure.
was running hard and looking healthy, but at the same time, if I just don't know if that's a recipe for success. And I think you even looked at this coaching staff. Their first possession, they moved the ball a little bit. They got their 3 points on their first possession of the game. There's 2 trick plays on the first possession of the game. So clearly they're already looking at themselves as underdogs in this sort of game. If they're trying to do stuff like that right off the bat, neither one of those trick play worked. I think the only takeaway you could look at for the Cowboys that's any sort of positive is I thought Trevon Diggs was really good. I thought Micah Parsons was really good in stretches of this game. But outside of that, I don't know what the positive takeaways are for the Cowboys.
I agree with you on Parsons. I did not think Diggs was great either. I mean, they were targeting Diggs a lot. I mean, they were throwing his way constantly.
Yeah, I thought he held his own. I mean, the Evans touchdown, obviously he got him there, but
I mean,
I think in the first half,
nothing he could have done about that one. But yeah,
yeah, I think in the first half he didn't give up a catch. I thought he was pretty good in this game overall. I mean, it wasn't his best game, but I mean, I thought for the most part, when they did take shots at him, I thought they were careful to make sure it wasn't anywhere near his hands because obviously he can come down with the football.
yeah. It was I believe the Julio Jones had a long catch off of on Diggs as well, and that was kind of my concern. Really, is I don't like Diggs with no safety help. I love Diggs with safety help. I don't like him with no safety help. And Dan Quinn likes one safety deep. So the Cowboys could be in trouble. Let's talk about the other team here for a second. Tampa Bay did not play their cleanest game. It feels like this is a team though that this is a team that has a lot of potential here.
Yeah. I think the one thing I could take away from this too is that, I mean, I did the whole, spiel on the Dallas receiving core obviously being decimated, and that's a problem. But a lot of credit has to go to this Tampa Bay side, whose coverage was just unreal in this game. There was not a lot of open windows. I didn't think Dak obviously didn't have a good game, and I think that's, fair to say, but there wasn't a lot of throwing windows I thought he had to make here. A lot of these guys just covered up everything. There was not, like I said, there wasn't a lot of windows, and I thought I'd be curious to see the blitz numbers because it didn't seem like it was a lot of blitz for a Todd Bowles defense, but they did some really creative stuff with their ability to blitz linebackers and safeties and drop defensive linemen back into coverage. A lot of different things that I thought just was confusing Dallas the entire time, and they just didn't have a lot of success.
Yeah, we have some comments in the chat. We first have missed the post Sunday game recaps from you guys. Oh well, we missed doing them as well. Appreciate that. Also, move on. This game sucked. So some people not thrilled with it. Also, this one still think the Patriots are winning the East. One of the worst takes I've ever heard. Yeah, I always forget about the first couple weeks. You get a lot of the haha, I was right, you were wrong comments in the chat.
Yeah, exactly. How dare we have any sort of opinion that doesn't agree with anybody else?
Right. Yes, exactly. Want to move on from this game?
Yeah, I think, I guess the last thing with the Bucks too is that I think there's potential. I think the offense really just needs to get healthy and get into a rhythm. I'd like to see all these guys on the field, and I think that's the one thing basically the NFC picture looks a lot more murky, I think, for teams at the top. but I think that I think they did their job, and we'll see how they look going forward if they can get these guys healthy and on the field.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Yeah, because now more injuries have piled up. Donovan Smith, Chris Godwin left, so definitely some concerns there. That's just the hope. Let's go to let's go to the Packers Vikings. Why don't we? This was Aaron Rodgers just has to play in the preseason next year, right? That's just what has to happen.
Well, I do want to be a little critical of him, but at first I'll start with
Okay.
there was two rookies that I was looking at for fantasy football, and I got
Hmm.
outbid for Drake London, and at the end I threw a flyer on Christian Watson, and because a couple injuries on my roster, he ends up slotting into my flex spot. And first play of the game for the Packers offense, he makes a killer move on a go route, completely burns Patrick Peterson. He's off to the races, 75-yard touchdowns right through his hands.
Uh-huh.
And just brutal. I felt so bad for the kid. But so here's my thing. Like, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a genius, and I probably consider Aaron Rodgers a football genius or at least a quarterback genius.
Hmm.
And like, obviously, when you're a genius and things don't work the way you want, it's very frustrating.
Hmm.
And he's obviously been doing this a very long time, so he expects things a certain way. But you have basically, your two outside receivers in this game are playing their very first football games of their NFL career.
Hmm.
And one's from Nevada and one's from North Dakota State. I know North Dakota State plays a lot of FCS championships, but this is probably the biggest game of their lives.
Hmm.
And in the second quarter, he's running around yelling at people, sulking on the bench, and it's just like, can you put on like a face to try and help your team be better? Like, be a leader. Like, I don't want to be overly
Oh,
critical.
we have a be a leader take on this on the podcast. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I just feel like I don't want to be overly critical because it's like I feel like there are a lot of people in media who take unnecessary shots at Aaron Rodgers. But
Hmm.
like you got two, I mean, for NFL terms, two basically kids playing with you on your football team. And in the
Hmm.
second quarter of their first ever football game, you're already losing your mind and throwing a tantrum on the sideline. And it's just like, how do you expect these guys to succeed if you're just gonna, throw fit every time they do something wrong? Like, try and coach these guys up, try and help these guys. They need your assistance, obviously. It just seemed like really weird to me. Like, it seemed like he had a defeatist attitude as soon as this game started. As soon as this
Uh,
game started.
yeah, in the chat, we have a W take, so people agree with Kyle here. I think I agree. Like, listen, we don't know what's going on in the huddles. We don't know what he's saying, so we can't comment on any of that. But like, his body language was as bad as I've ever seen a quarterback's body language on the sideline. I mean, I guess the one thing I could make a comparison with is like, Tom Brady in the Saints game last year. He was also very upset. He broke the tablet and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think I agree. I think that given the situation, it's not the right move to get so frustrated so quickly. When I
Yeah.
mean that was a game. Like they had a chance to come back and win that game. I do think I agree. I also think the bigger issue was just what was actually happening on the football field of guys weren't getting open. The offensive line couldn't protect, and Rodgers made mistakes in his own way. Rodgers made the exact same interception in this game that he made in the Saints game, like the exact same one in
Yeah.
the Saints game last year. It was almost identical.
Yeah, I'm not going to overreact and say the Packers are going to be bad. I still think,
Me neither.
after, getting torched in the first half, I thought the secondary kind of, you know, fixed itself a little bit. I mean, obviously the Vikings were kind of coasting a little bit in this game. I felt like after taking a big lead, but I thought the secondary kind of fixed itself a little bit in the second half, played better. This team's obviously going to run the ball very well. They averaged over 6 yards a carry. If they're not down 17-0 at the half, that's obviously going to help them going forward. But yeah, it felt like a terrible attitude in this game. And I mean, it's gone from the offseason. I mean, he was berating these guys in the offseason to the media. And I just feel like I, you know, Brady doing it last year when it's a bunch of veteran wide receivers who he's played with all of those guys basically for his second year
Hmm.
compared to guys who are green straight out of the draft. I just feel like it's a bad attitude to approach your first game of the year. It felt like he was already ready to get off the field. I don't know. I I think the Packers are still going to be a good team. I'm still buying into this team being solid because of this defense running game. And Rodgers is going to be very good, I think, again this season. But it felt weird. It felt weird for the first game of the season.
It did. You're right. And the thing is, like, we all remember last year, right? So we're kind of saying, well, it happened last year. That doesn't necessarily guarantee that this year is going to be the same way, though. It might be. there's more reason to believe it will be that way than if we didn't have that sample size last year. But I do think that all of that is fair. The Vikings were really good in this game. The Vikings deserve a lot of credit. I thought the way this team was coached was very fascinating. This defense is sort of the two safety high defense, which I didn't fully realize they were going to do, but that's very fun. And that seems to be working. I think it was like a 4th and 1, and they threw the ball to Justin Jefferson, and I'm like, oh my god, this Vikings team is way better than last year's Vikings team. So I had a lot of fun with the Vikings, which are usually kind of like a frustrating team to watch. They were a blast to watch today.
Yeah, we had heard kind of the rumors of this pass first offense. They're gonna, open it up a little bit more for Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson. I mean, I threw a little sprinkle down on that Justin Jefferson Offensive Player of the Year. I think that was the pick I made for our show last week. And I mean, so far, like you said, everything's looking awesome. Everything looks great for this team. The passing game, like you said, was awesome. Justin Jefferson, I mean, it doesn't get better than 9 catches, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns to start the season.
He was as good as I've ever seen a wide receiver in a game. I think that this was up there with like all the other great, like because he was going up against good competition. He wasn't just going up against like, I remember Julio Jones had like a 300-yard game, but it was like against like whatever like, but it's like dude, he was uncoverable in this game. Justin Jefferson, I could see by the end of the year him being in the best wide receiver in football conversation.
He could be. I definitely think so. And obviously, like you said, he was terrific. And I mean, they did a really good job of scheming him open, I thought, too, with different things. And the thing, too, with this team, and, we're going to get to a couple of the other team that added wide receivers. It wasn't just him. He did obviously lead the team in 11 targets. But you still had guys like Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne. All of these guys are still kind of involved. Obviously, Jefferson's going to be the focal point for this team, but I'm kind of buying what the Vikings are selling right now. I really like this team and what they're able to do.
Yeah, very fun. Let's move on. Let's talk about the weirdest game ever played, the Steelers versus the Bengals. Kyle, this game got off the rails quickly and never got back on them. This was Joe Burrow could not stop turning the ball over. Somehow they stayed in it because the Steelers could not get anything going offensively. I believe the total. Here, I'm trying to look it up. The total first downs were here it is, 13-32 in favor of Cincinnati. Just an absolutely insane, weird game that somehow the Pittsburgh Steelers won. The Bengals had it won. They scored a touchdown down 6 on the last play of regulation and missed the extra point due to a bad snap. It's just a bizarre game.
Yeah, I mean, so how many times have we seen? So they had the play right next to the 2-minute warning where it actually looked like Jamar Chase scored. I mean, I think you could fairly say Jamar Chase scored a touchdown there. It wasn't challenged. So they have to play next to the 2-minute warning. They don't score on that possession still at the 1-yard line. They go down later. They score a touchdown in the final as the clock expires to tie the game and potentially win it with an extra point. Don't get it. Get a chance to go down and kick a field goal in overtime after getting in the initial stop. Don't get it there. I mean, have you ever seen a team with 3-4 chances to come back and win this game and then not do it like this? I mean, this was an unreal thing that it didn't happen.
Yeah, and not to mention the the Steelers missed a field goal as well to win it in overtime. Also, someone was saying Minka Fitzpatrick blocked the extra point. You might be right. I think they missed the one in overtime with the bad snap. It was the block extra point. That's right. But no. Well, didn't the Bengals and the Packers have a game like this last year where they kept missing field goals back and forth in overtime?
Yeah, it was another one kind of like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was just crazy how this kind of turned out. I mean, this is gonna be the thing for the Bengals now, right? It's it sounds cliche, but they're the hunted, not the hunters, right? And if you're gonna be the favorite, you can't turn the ball over 5 times and expect to win a lot of football games. They almost did. They almost did because they have an unreal offense that can really move the ball. They have explosive wide receivers. They have all this stuff, but you can't turn the ball over 5 times and get sacked 7 times and expect to win a lot of football games.
Yeah, I have maybe a warm take here. I didn't think Joe Burrow was that bad in this game. I thought a lot of the interceptions were fine throws and fine decisions where good defensive plays happen, which does happen sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like a lot of I'm trying to go back and remember. I think there was one that I was like, okay, that's kind of a bad throw. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, give credit to where credit's due. We spent all offseason saying we're selling this Steeler secondary, and they came up with a few really big plays in this one. They came up with
Yeah.
some really big plays, make some plays for their defense, get their offense on the right foot. Minka Fitzpatrick with a huge bounce back game when we were talking about how much he struggled last season. He came alive in this one, made 3 or 4 monumental plays, led the team in tackles. I thought he was unreal. He might have been the best defender of the week this week. The TJ Watt injury kind of sucks, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, they made some plays on defense, and you got to give him credit for that. I didn't think Burrow was bad, and like you said, he was able to bring this team back and have pretty good stats at the end of the day. It was impressive.
Yeah, because part of me is like, man, this Steelers team, like, could this be a playoff team? Like, if their defense is playing the way they did today, maybe. But then, like, well, you're losing TJ Watt, so it's gonna be hard for them to play like they played today. So
Yeah.
that definitely, it's a bittersweet win for the Steelers. And for the Bengals, I mean, it's the worst thing imaginable. You finally have, you were so close to winning a Super Bowl. The next week, you're like, okay, now we have all these expectations, Super Bowl or bust. Losing to your arch nemesis in the first week, just tragic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not, I still think the Bengals are going to be really good. I mean, they should. I know they got 2 road games, but they should theoretically come out with wins on at Cowboys and at New York. That's Jets, that is. And I mean, going forward, I think they're going to be fine. It was just an ugly start. It was a really ugly start. Like the game starting, you looked up and Joe Burrow had 3 interceptions. And yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be fine. And just an ugly start, and they got to learn how to be, they got to learn how to be more efficient than this.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's go to I think there were some surprising games this week. I think there was one shocking game this week, and that was the Giants beating the Titans. I was stunned when that final field goal did not go through, and the Giants pulled off the upset here. I mean, again, Daniel Jones did his best to give the Titans the win here at the end with I mean, they have a chance to tie it. He throws just an insane interception that we all thought was going to cost them the game. Kyle, what are your thoughts on this one?
Were you really that shocked? Because this Tennessee can never find a kicker.
I guess so.
They're going down the field, and I'm like, they're going to lose this game. I have a Giants buddy that I was texting, and I'm like, don't worry, Bullock's going to miss this, and he ends up missing this. He missed the kick. I think the thing that was so shocking to me is like this is one of those things where, like, you're right, Daniel Jones with the pick, with the fumble, some of these bad decisions. Clearly, it just drives me crazy watching him play. I think they need a new quarterback, obviously. This is obvious that they need a new quarterback, I feel like. But I just watched this game, and I'm like, the Giants felt like a better team. Like, they honestly felt like a better team. They had almost 1 more yard per play. The Titans front 7 did a very good job in this game. They got 5 sacks, and I think even more pressures than that. But they had the Giants felt like they had a better team, but the Titans had a better quarterback that kept them in this game. That's really what it felt like. Saquon Barkley was maybe the best I've seen from him in 2 or 3 years. He was electric in this game. But yeah, that's honestly what I felt like. And I don't know what to make of that for Tennessee.
Well, to me, it felt like the Titans weren't able to get explosive plays. And maybe that's just the loss of A.J. Brown. And maybe it's just, Derrick Henry didn't look like vintage Derrick Henry. Now, maybe that's just, it takes him some time to get going. Or maybe it's, he's an older running back coming off of an injury. We don't know. But, that was an issue for the Titans when the Giants were able to get explosive plays. Saquon Barkley had a few explosive plays, and there was the big Sterling Shepard touchdown pass. And so getting those explosive plays, that was really the difference in this game, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it really felt like that. Saquon looked like the young upstart running back who was ready to go. And I mean, Derrick Henry, I hate to say it, looked kind of like a 28-year-old back. And you know what? The crazy thing is like we kind of talked about this Derrick Henry like curve to where he became the best running back in football. And you looked at his first few years, it's like he got touchdowns, and he's obviously huge and a fantastic athlete. But it was always kind of like, you know what? He's not the most efficient runner sometimes. He always like hovered around the 4 yards per carry thing. And then that 3-year stretch where he was the best running back in the league, he was up to near 5 yards per carry and just unreal. And then last year, like even when he was getting all those carries and kind of blowing away everyone in the rushing totals before his injury, and it just kind of felt like that there was a lot of stretches where he's just some inefficient runs just mixed in that kind of derailed drives. And it felt like again we were back at that state, but they don't have AJ Brown to make up for that.
Yeah, I agree. You had, Traylon Burks played his role well, but he's not AJ Brown. Like it's too much. You can't expect him to come in and play like that. Also, we have a super chat, the great Overlap 618 saying, "Oh yeah, it's the number one supporter of the channel, Overlap, and I am so happy to have you guys back. 20 weeks away until TB12 wins number 8 and Jackson wears the penguin suit. Let's hope so, Overlap. Let's hope so. Yes, glad to have you back as well. Glad to be back. Yeah, I guess I don't know. Weird decision to go for 2, right? Like that probably was not the smart decision to go for 2 for the Giants to go up by 1 with like over a minute left. I took a bit too much time on the clock. It worked, so you can't complain. But
I think the thing that like I'm guessing Dayball was thinking like they so the thing I was thinking is that they're getting no pressure. They're getting no pressure in this game. And
mhm.
even on that last drive, they couldn't really touch Tannehill at all. They covered well, I thought, but at the same time, so I looked at it as like if they're not going to get any pressure on Tannehill and Saquon's getting like 10 yards per touch, like I don't hate the idea of going for it. It was ballsy and it worked, so obviously you justify the right decision when it works in your favor. But yeah, it definitely was a gutsy call.
Yeah. Any more thoughts on this game, or do you want to move on?
Um, this Giants receiving core is just baffling to me, right?
I
Like,
know. I can't figure it out either.
they had one 65-yard pass, which was the big one to Sterling Shepard. And then like Kadarius Toney like just doesn't play anymore. Wan'Dale Robinson got hurt, so that's obviously not ideal.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. Like so I like what I saw from the Giants for in moments, but yeah, I mean, once they get their defensive ends back, it could be a really interesting team because I thought they defended pretty well at the back. It's just they really need those defensive ends to come back and play because they didn't get any pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. It should be interesting. Let's go to another big upset. Let's stick with the upset trend. The
Yeah.
Niners losing to the Bears is, if you're a 49ers fan, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not worried at all, it's just one game, 10 being we have absolutely no chance, and we should just tank from here on out. Where are you on the panic meter?
I'm going about maybe a 3.5.
Okay,
Like this
interesting.
was. Did you see this stuff? Like
Yeah. Hmm.
I mean, like the lines aren't straight. The water is everywhere. I mean, people are literally sliding 5 feet on tackles. Uh,
Uh,
Now, don't get me wrong. Trey Lance, I thought wasn't good.
mhm.
Um, but I think they went into this knowing it's going to be a learning curve, and they still ran the ball well. They still did some things really well. They just did. It was kind of similar to what we were just talking about with Tennessee. There was no explosive plays, it felt like at times. They had a couple big passing plays, but it didn't feel like it was a whole lot going downfield, stretching this field. I don't know. The rain just seemed a big equalizer in this game. And then give credit to the Bears because they took advantage of it and they made some big plays on defense. Justin Fields was, this offense was horrid in the first half of this game, but they kind of came alive a little bit. They found a little bit of the rhythm and got it done. They needed 19 and they got to it.
Yeah. Also, we have a super chat by Sports PSP, so appreciate that. But yeah, I don't know. This was a weird game. This was a sloppy game. Again, an odd game, right? A lot of odd
Yeah.
games here. I kind of did feel like the 2 turnovers really hurt San Francisco, especially the interception by Trey Lance. And also, part of me just looks at the numbers, and it's like Fields threw the ball 17 times, Trey Lance threw the ball 28 times. Like, that might be part of the issue right here. Like, you're the 49ers. Like, a rain game should benefit you. If people
Yeah.
aren't throwing the ball, that should be right in your wheelhouse.
Well, it's not even like the Bears ran the ball that well. They had 99 rushing yards and 37 carries.
Uh huh.
Uh, like, I like I feel really good for the Bears because they're fans, and I think everyone was kind of just down on this team. Everyone talked about this team for worst record in the league, which
Hmm.
I still actually think is kind of on the table.
Hmm.
So I'm happy they were able to get this win, but is it okay to not take anything away from this game when it was just crazy weather, crazy situation? Like, is it okay to kind of just say we'll reevaluate both of these teams in a week?
That's fair. You can definitely
Okay.
do that. I don't think that's crazy to do. I think there's some things we can take away, but I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about this. I mean, it just, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't
Here I have
be
one thing.
upset in that, not play football.
I have one thing that I have. There were way too many guys wide open, down the field. Way too many Chicago Bears receivers wide open down the field for San
Yeah.
Francisco. That's something that you can't blame the weather on. That's something they have to fix.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where, like we were saying, Jason Verrett's already out. And how's the secondary going to hold up? Because it's usually good when he plays, but when he's already out, I mean, I don't really know what to take away from it. We'll see what happens with this secondary if it can improve. But we went from saying this is probably the worst pass catching group in football to, like you were saying, they had opportunities. They made 8 catches for 121 yards, like
Hmm.
total. But I mean,
Yeah,
like you said, it was very low numbers, and they had explosive plays out of it.
right. Obviously, the 51-yard Dante Pettis touchdown, which is a very fun play by Fields. Fields, love him or hate him, makes very fun plays.
Yeah, yeah, he's exciting.
Uh-huh. So sometimes for worse, but sometimes for better.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I just I don't know. Like I
Yeah,
said, I can't take away too much from it, but at the same time, Fields was able to get it done in this game, and when his team needed him most, he came up big. So you got to give him some credit.
absolutely. Yeah. No, I thought, I mean, I didn't think either young quarterback was great in this one. Again, Fields did have a play early on where he threw like directly at like 49ers. But other than that, I thought Fields played pretty well. Let's move on. Let's go to the tie. I love a good tie. Colts, Texans. I mean, uh, I don't know what you want to talk. I don't know what happened here. I watched this game. I have no. I don't get what happened. What did I miss? What? How did this become a thing?
The Colts were asleep for 3 quarters, basically. I mean, they scored
Uh-huh.
17 in the fourth to bring them back in this one, but I don't know what was happening because they were just, I mean, I don't know. Matt Ryan like made some really just bad decisions, and it seemed like they got the offense moving every now and then it was just like a dumb play on second down, a dumb throw on third down, a throwaway or something like that, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're punting again. Texans get a stop, couple turnover or yeah, a couple turnovers here too that also didn't help. But yeah, I mean, it just felt like that the Colts just were kind of in a lull until the fourth quarter, and then turned it on.
Yeah, I think so because again, the yards difference it's 517 for the Colts, 299 for the Texans. And it was only a one turnover difference as well. But I think I agree. I thought Matt Ryan. It's weird because I was watching him and Davis Mills, and like he just looks so much more like clearly like a better quarterback, but like he wasn't producing better results than Mills. You know what I mean? Like he didn't wasn't playing better. I guess like he missed some throws that he typically doesn't miss and things like that. I think the Colts will be fine. I just think it was like a weird kind of things just didn't go their way.
Yeah, I think they're going to be fine too. I still think this is a good team that I'm buying into, but at the same time, we keep looking at this team and keep waiting for this team to win this division.
Uh huh.
And we just talked about Tennessee and how
Hey,
it
they're
looks like
tied for
their
the
pass.
lead.
Yeah, no kidding. It looks like this pass catching group is a problem for Tennessee, and this is the second game in a row now. If you want to go back to Week 17 last year, where this team kind of shits the bed, honestly. And it's just
Hmm.
like, how many times are they going to keep getting away with this? Like, if this team doesn't make the playoffs, is it fair to put Frank Reich on the hot seat? I don't want to go hot seat week 1, but at the same time, this should be a playoff team in this division. From what we saw from these 4 teams this week, there's no reason the Colts shouldn't make the playoffs. And yet they drop games like this that are winnable games.
Yeah. Maybe I don't know. I feel like I like Frank Reich, but I also feel like
It's
I
a
would still.
results driven league, though, at the same time.
It's all what.
It's a results driven league. You got to win games and make the playoffs.
Sure, but I feel like I would kind of have the mindset of I would want to see a team. I want to like I think that it's hard to win too many games when you don't invest in the wide receiver position too much. And
Yeah.
look at Michael Pittman was great in this game. He had 121 yards, 9 catches, and a touchdown. So, but I just think that this is their style, and I think that this kind of style is going to result in them getting upset sometimes because of the way they build their team.
Yeah. I mean, it felt like, they almost still came back and won this game. So I guess, you give them some credit for that. They ended up pulling out the tie because of that. But yeah, I mean, I can't fathom looking at this team and thinking at what point are they going to actually go up and take this thing that we keep waiting for them to win.
Yeah. Do we feel any better about the Texans now than we did yesterday?
I mean, once again, it's kind of the similar thing. This team goes out and competes, man. Um,
Sure.
like they do, I this team, this offense just fell apart completely in the fourth quarter, and it was once
Yeah.
again, it's like, okay, the Colts want to kind of boa constrict this thing and
Mhm.
suffocate this team. I guess the one thing outside of the they did a pretty good job, I thought, of taking care of the ball in this game. There was the one fumble for a turnover, but I thought overall they did pretty good on that. OJ Howard, couple touchdowns.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
like, I think there's a couple things to take away. This actually, I want to give some credit to this defense actually because I thought it was good. A
Mhm.
lot of pass breakups in this game, and I thought they did a pretty good job in coverage in this one.
Yeah, I that's exactly the one thing I was gonna say is I don't know how much I feel like their offense is better. I do actually think that they covered very well in this one, and maybe it's just
Mhm.
the Colts who are a bit of an easier team to cover. I don't know, but I did feel like this wasn't like the teams we've seen in past years, where the Texans teams we've seen in past years, where it's like people are just always wide open. Maybe it's the the addition of Derek Stingley. I'm sure helps. Jalen Patir also in there. So and also the guys who aren't rookies helped out as well. So the coverage, I think, definitely made them better. Still don't think they're a great team now, but who knows? Maybe they'll continue to get ties, and then I'll feel better about them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree. Maybe they're a little bit frisky, but at the same time, I just still think there's a talent deficiency. They kind of jumped on the Colts early. We'll see how they evaluate going forward.
Yeah. Let's go to the Saints Falcons. This was another wild one. Comes ends up being a 1 point game. It looked like the Falcons were about to pull off an upset,
Yeah.
and it was really kind of the Saints offense that won this game a little bit.
Yeah.
Taysom Hill had some big plays in this one. And it was really the Jameis Winston to like Michael Thomas and to Chris Olave, and then Jarvis Landry had 100 yards. So those three guys, the question was Olave, Thomas, and Landry. What are we going to see out of them? They all came through with big plays. Olave a 2 point conversion. Thomas had 2 touchdowns, and Landry over 100 yards.
Yeah. Landry had a couple big plays, I think, that made up for a lot of that. This was a rough day for the Michael Slampoy Thomas, his overrated crowd.
Uh-huh.
Because he made four, I think he only had 5 catches in this game, but I think four of them were just unreal plays and unreal routes that he made that were
Hmm.
able to get touchdowns. He was really good in this game. I felt like down the stretch. I think my biggest takeaway from this game is like, so I've watched this Jameis thing. Obviously they had the first few games before he got hurt last year, and
Hmm.
now this game, and they've had a concerted effort to kind of like rein in what was Jameis in Tampa Bay,
Hmm.
and I, is that the best course of action, you feel like? Like, it just seemed like when they let him out there, end of game, they were down double digits. They let him out there to go kind of sling things around. And it seemed like that's the best version of Jameis. Like, yes, he's going to make some mistakes throughout the season if you let him keep doing that. But you have this defense that is supposedly awesome, right? Like,
Hmm.
shouldn't it be okay if he makes a few mistakes because your defense should make up for a lot of it because it is that good? Like, he was really good down the stretch of this game. I just feel like they need to let him do that more because this isn't the kind of guy who was built to kind of, dink and dunk, take the average, the check down throw. And it seems like that's what they want him to do until the going gets tough.
I would probably agree. I mean, at the end of the day, he's playing better now than he was in the Bruce Arians scheme system, right? So
Yeah.
you don't want to fully say, okay, go ahead and do whatever you want, Jameis, right? Like you do have to try to reel him in to some degree. But I kind of just think like the way that they scheme stuff so that guys are getting open quickly and sort of underneath. I think that's really what makes Jameis be effective is getting guys open, kind of 7 yards down the field instead of 27 yards down the field like Bruce Arians would do.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, like I said, I thought Thomas was good in this game. Landry had a lot of big catches, and then Chris Olave had some moments. And all of a sudden, you're looking at this as a pretty good pass catching group. The defense, I think, has some questions after this, but I thought it was a pretty interesting game because I also kind of was buying what Atlanta was selling here. I liked a lot of what I saw. Um, I thought in the first half, this coverage group I thought was really good when you saw Casey Hayward and AJ Terrell. Um, I don't know. I kind of like a little bit what this Falcon team has. Maybe this team's just kind of actually solid.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. This was the first time I really felt like the Arthur Smith offense was in Atlanta. This is the first time I felt
Yeah,
like he was like doing what he wanted to do.
it definitely felt that way, right? Because
Hmm.
they were kind of catering things. Matt Stafford wasn't really felt like built to run that offense, and they didn't have the talent at skill positions to kind of run it either.
You mean Matt Ryan?
Matt Ryan, yes. Matt
Mhm.
Ryan wasn't really built to run that offense, and they didn't really have the talent at skill position either. But when you look at, Cordarrelle Patterson having 5.5 yards to carry, Marcus Mariota having 6 yards to carry, he's also, having 6 yards of pass play. And, um, I mean, Drake London looks like a stud through one game, right? Like, he didn't
Mhm.
have like the biggest stat line, but I thought he was awesome in this game with his 5 catches and 74 yards.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think that it was a lot of fun, and we'll see. It came down to a blocked field goal at the end. So exciting stuff there. Let's move on. Let's go to. Let's do the. Why not? How about let's go Browns Panthers, because there's a lot of intrigue here with the whole Baker Mayfield versus the Browns situation. In Baker Mayfield, I really felt like through about 3 quarters or so, really made the Browns feel good about their decision to get rid of him.
Yeah, to about 3 quarters, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden this Panthers offense came alive, and it was really weird. Like they weren't giving the ball to Christian McCaffrey, which I just thought was a mistake. Now they did a good job defending him against the run, but he didn't really get his touches, and part of it was also going down like double digits early. They obviously stopped running the ball.
Hmm.
They started to find ways to get McCaffrey involved, and then all of a sudden things started opening up, and then this offense kind of came alive a little bit towards the end with this game wide open, and they put themselves in a good position to win. They almost pulled this off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, was it? I mean, how much of it though was just like Robbie Anderson? There's kind of a blown coverage, and Robbie Anderson got wide open down the field, and that gave him like a free touchdown to get him back in it.
It did, but also,
Hmm.
they were able to go down and get a couple more, and this defense also got stops, which I think I'm still very concerned about this Browns offense. I know they were able to go down and get the winning field goal, but
Hmm.
I think going forward for this Browns team this season, I just don't see this team making the playoffs with 10 more games of this passing attack. I think it's going to be a really tough look for this team.
Brissett was in the Blaine Gabbert zone, under 5 yards per attempt in this one, 147 yards on 34 attempts. So yeah, I'm with you. Brissett was not great in this one. The running game was
Yeah.
Nick Chubb was awesome, and Kareem Hunt was still there, had some key runs as well. Even if his stats might not say that. So I mean, it just felt like every time Nick Chubb had the ball, it's just like I mean, he is one of those. I feel like I always forget like he's one of those like elite backs, because he
Yeah.
really is. But it just you kind of overlook him sometimes and just sort of view it as the Browns' running game as a whole. So that's what they have going for them. But I think you're right. The question is, how many games can you win with that?
Yeah, and part of it is also because they do such a good job of keeping Chubb fresh with Kareem Hunt also on that sideline, so that also
Hmm.
helps. But yeah, I mean, I just look at this and I don't know how successful that's going to be going forward. The big thing was that they could kind of stay ahead of the sticks and they got off to a lead that they can keep running. If this team falls behind, I just feel like there's no way I envision this team coming back to win a game down double digits. That's the big thing. Now, this running game and defense might keep them in a lot of games, but it was just weird. But they were able to come back and get the win. So, it looked like a panic time for a second there. They're 1-0. So you got to feel pretty good about that if you're a Browns fan, at least getting the win. Didn't love the roughing the passer call. Um, I know the Panthers, I think, players were pretty upset about it at the end, but that was kind of, that was a big part of them being able to get back into field goal range.
Well, the call I was going to bring up was the spike thing at the end, where there was the spike and then sort of an actual almost like a fake spike and an actual spike, which I believe per rule is supposed to be I've always felt that is a penalty and that should be a delay of game, which meant that instead of a 58-yarder for the win, it would have had to be a 68-yarder for the win. They would have had to take a 10-second delay, only 3 seconds left. So
Yeah.
uh also, I forgot to mention one of the most hilarious things I maybe have ever seen was Jameis Winston getting a intentional grounding penalty for spiking a ball when the clock was already stopped. So they got which was fantastic. But
Yeah.
but yeah, that I mean that probably was a difference in the game.
Yeah, I mean, those were two big plays because like you said, that would have moved it 68 yards, which probably is a, near impossible kick. And then look, I understand the essence of the roughing the passer rule for hitting quarterbacks in the head because when they're going to throw the ball, they can't really protect their head from getting, clobbered.
Hmm.
I just think the essence of the rule, like yes, you're protecting their head, but when a guy is just up here trying to tip a pass and he's not going to hit him that hard, I feel like that defeats the rule's purpose. Like that's just calling it because you have a flag there to call it. He barely touches him, it feels like, and it's getting called because it's contact to the helmet, and I just felt like that was unfair.
Yeah, I don't. I get it. My thing of roughing the passers in general has always kind of been, uh, they're always going to take the side of the quarterback. They're always going to
Yeah.
do whatever the quarterback, which is it's just sort of the way that they view it. But yeah, I mean, Panthers look competent. Hopefully, they use Christian McCaffrey more, give him more than 10 carries, but maybe they want to ease him into it. I don't know. Browns look solid. Any other thoughts on this one?
Um, yeah, it's just another one where I'll probably reevaluate the Panthers a little bit down the road because I don't really know how good I don't know how good the secondary is going against this Browns offense right now. So we'll see how much better this team can get going forward.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about Kyle. What the hell happened to your team here? The New England Patriots only 7 points. They also gave up a touchdown when they were on offense. The Dolphins scored a defensive touchdown, so a net point total of 0 for your New England Patriots. What went wrong?
Well, they got off to a great start. That first drive, they're moving down the field,
Hmm.
and I mean, I felt like it was defensive pass interference in the end zone, but I can't complain too much about it because, like, those pass interference calls can be 50-50 sometimes. I did feel
Hmm.
like he had him on the outside. Crazy bounce, which, of course, with the Miami Dolphins, these crazy
Uh,
bounces always turn into turnovers. Just
hmm.
every time they turn into turnovers, it pops up in the air. Javon Holland jumps on it. They get it. They go the other way. Like, I didn't feel like there was like a crazy amount of difference between these two teams. The difference between these two teams is one team has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and one does not. Like,
Hmm.
like when you have explosive receivers that can make plays, it makes a huge difference. Like Mac wasn't good in this game, but like I didn't think he was like horrible. Like his 9.7 QBR would be, reads. I thought he had some good throws, but there just wasn't a lot of guys open. The Dolphins were perfectly content dropping everybody in coverage, but they could still defend the run really well with that defensive line, and they kind of covered up everything in this one. I didn't think he was great, but I didn't think he was horrible, and the interception was a crazy bounce. And there was a lot of concern about this offense in the preseason, training camp, all that kind of stuff. A lot of that came to fruition because they just couldn't get anything going after their first drive. And it's the same story with this Patriots team for going on through. This is the third year now with this Patriots team where there's not enough explosive plays in this team with this most expensive receiving core in football. They can't create explosive play. They had, one big play basically in this game.
Yeah. We have a chat saying, the judge slash Patricia offensive genius scheme at work. Yeah, not off to a great start in the judge Patricia offensive scheme era.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't great. And then I don't know. It's just like the same Belichick stuff that like, okay, it's the Patriot way, so it works. You have to credit it. But it's like Kendrick Bourne was our best receiver by a pretty significant margin last season.
Hmm.
He doesn't play till 5:50 in the fourth quarter. He gets his first snap with 5:50 left in the fourth quarter. On his second snap, he gets a 41-yard reception, and that's basically it. He comes
Hmm.
out of the game after that. Like, I don't understand how, like, unless he's just not showing up to practices and training camp, what could he have possibly done to not get on the field at all? When you're watching
Right.
these guys try and get open, and there's just nobody consistently open. We talked about it with Devontae Parker, too. Like, I think Devontae Parker's a good receiver. I think he's big, he's physical, he can win jump balls. But at the same time, that's not really the way Mac Jones likes to play. He doesn't like to throw 50-50 balls. And that's basically what he'd have to do with Devontae Parker this season.
Yeah. It's interesting. On the flip side, Kyle, I'm gonna say it. The Dolphins were fun to watch. The Dolphins offense was fun to watch. Hell is frozen over. I was enjoying watching this Dolphins offense play football.
Tyreek Hill is definitely involved in this team, and that's going to be
Uh-huh.
fun. Like, like when I said that Mac Jones throw was kind of a crazy bounce, I thought Tua had the two most dangerous throws in this game. He lofted one up there that like Tyreek Hill beat the guy to the high point, and it was just like it didn't seem like a very good throw. And then there was another one that he kind of sailed that the corner should have picked off and dropped it. But at the same time, like when he was in rhythm, he made good throws in this game. And that's all you can really ask from him. I thought he had a few mistakes, but I thought overall it was a pretty good game. And the most important thing they wanted to do was get the ball into Waddle, Hill, Chase Edmonds' hands, let them get into space with that speed and make things happen. And they were able to do that.
Yeah. New Master 60 mime in the chat saying Mike McDaniel has heavy balls. Yeah, very bold call by Mike McDaniel to the 4th and 8 at the end of the half going for it, and Jalen Waddle getting a touchdown on that play. Again, I know it's probably not as fun for you as it was for me, but very fun to watch.
I mean, yeah, it was a good call, but at the same
Hmm.
time, it's not like you can be you're not going to be scared by this Patriots offense at this point. You know,
Hmm.
I thought it was he wasn't scared of this team going the other way, so he's like, let's go for it. And Waddle came up with a huge play. He made the catch and he made a huge run.
Yeah. Yeah. Kyle, I see someone in the chat saying we're too scared to critique Belichick. Let's critique Belichick. Uh, if the Patriots do not do well this year, is Belichick on the hot seat?
No, I mean, he's not going to be on the hot seat because of who he is. Like, he's going to be
Uh-huh.
in that job for as long as he wants it. But I think it's fair to criticize a lot of the moves he's made. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the free agent cap spending spree for basically he got a bunch of guys who aren't number one options, I think is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, hiring coaches is part of his job. And he brought in two guys who aren't offensive guys. And the big thing is he likes his guys almost to a fault, it seems like at this point. Because what is
Mm-hmm.
like, there are offensive coordinators out there who can come in and learn an offensive scheme and implement an offensive scheme. Why do you need to bring in Matt Patricia and Joe Judge to do that? I just don't
Right.
understand that. So we'll see how this adjusts going forward. Like I said, like the two turnovers were the big difference, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle were the big difference. There still didn't feel like a huge gap between these two teams, and I think the Patriots can get better. But this offense looks bleak right now, and I don't think it's getting better anytime soon. Where the Dolphins are probably trending up, and I have room to grow.
Yeah. Patriots play the Steelers next week. That should be an interesting game. Kind of a test that where both of those two teams are at. That could be very fun. Let's move on. Let's go to let's talk some balls. Let's go Jaguars at balls. This was Carson Wentz went full Carson Wentz in this game,
He did.
where I thought that he played like very well, except for the 2 interceptions, which were both just insane. And it's like it's a perfect Carson Wentz game.
It was a perfect Carson Wentz game.
Hmm.
One of them was definitely late. Were they both late interceptions? I think down the stretch, and it just seemed
Hmm.
like he was doing everything he can to give this game away, and
Haha.
he almost did. Um, my biggest takeaway from this game, and we'll get to the whole picture, was this this Washington receiving group. I think is really good. Like,
Hmm.
it's one of the better ones in the league that I saw today. Like, I look at Jahan Dotson. I mean, he caught 2 touchdowns, obviously, so it's a pretty good day. But he had multiple times where I felt like he could have had even more opportunities to make catches. Logan Thomas is a pretty good tight end at getting open, I thought, down the field. Curtis Samuel was fantastic, I thought, in this game. Terry McLaurin has the big bomb for the touchdown. Like, this might be the best receiving core Carson. I mean, it's not saying a lot because he hasn't played with a lot of great receivers, but this might be by far the best receiving core he's ever played with. These pass catchers are really good for Washington. I was really impressed one weekend.
Yeah, I would still say that the Super Bowl winning year, the receivers were very good that year. But yeah, and also Antonio Gibson was somehow the leading receiver in all of this, so that's kind of just a funny stat on top of that. But yeah, I agree. I think that, and this is exactly what you want. This is the right way to have Carson Wentz there. Like, I think this Commanders team is solid. I really do. I think that they're a playoff contender. I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender, but I do think that they're a team that has a chance to. I could see them making the playoffs.
Uh, I could potentially too, because I just don't know how to feel about all these NFC East teams. We're going to get into a couple or one more here too, but it's just like, yeah, I mean, they have a legitimate strength of this team, which, like I said, is this pass catching group. I kind of liked a lot of what I saw out of this defense a little bit too at times. Like, I also kind of liked what I saw from Jacksonville in this game at times too. So maybe both of these teams are just actually pretty solid, and we saw some pretty good football being played in this game outside of a couple turnovers.
Yeah. Trevor Lawrence wasn't perfect in this game by any means. I felt like this situation, though, just felt so much like
Yeah.
easier for him. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like, okay, we have an actual person who knows what he's doing, like giving him situations to succeed. And hey, Christian Kirk over 100 yards. So all that criticism about him, he played well right away.
Yeah, I mean, I thought down the stretch, they kind of had to open up the offense a little bit in the second half because they fell behind 14-3. And I thought he kind of, started to put some things together. They scored on 4 straight possessions. I mean, they were helped by interceptions, but they scored on 4 straight possessions, which isn't an easy feat in the NFL. So I thought he had a pretty good, stretch there. I thought the interception he got hit, it was a little bit of a weird play at the end of there, and he was trying to force something down the field. I'm not taking too much away from that interception,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was perfect. I thought he actually had a pretty, mediocre at best first half, but I thought he came alive there and put some things together. And like you said, things just feel better about this team. I think that you look at James Robinson healthy, Travis Etienne, that's a good running back room. Christian
Mhm.
Kirk, I think, is you know, he's not a $20 million wide receiver, but he's a good wide receiver.
Mhm.
Zay Jones is a solid slot guy. You look through this and it's like, okay, there's playable players on this offense now.
Yeah. Again, great compliments we're giving here. It doesn't, largely because of how bad the Urban Meyer era was.
Yeah,
Um, Hey, Trayvon Walker, again, another guy who I've certainly criticized plenty. He had a sack and an interception in this one.
yeah,
So there you go. Also, Tyson Campbell had an interception again. Just on two, just insane throws by Carson Wentz. So like, I don't know how much, Campbell was an earned interception. Trayvon Walker, it's like you caught the ball that was thrown right at you, but also, put yourself in position for it to be thrown right at you. So that's what you get credit for. So, got to give him credit.
Watson definitely showed his athleticism. I was pretty impressed. That's a pretty good first
Yeah,
game I thought for him.
absolutely.
The athleticism obviously jumps off the charts. I think, there's still some things I think he can clean up in his game, but you can't complain about that for your first game in the NFL.
Right, right. And this is what you're hoping for, is you don't expect him to be the cleanest player right away. He has a bit of some techniques, things he has to work on. You're just hoping he can win with athleticism and then get the technique down, and the sky is the limit for him.
Yep.
So two interesting teams to see going forward. Let's talk about two more interesting teams. Let's go from the one team in the NFC East to another team in the NFC East. The Eagles playing the Lions ended up being a very competitive game sneakily, and like not even one of those where the score made it seem closer. I mean, the Eagles had to go for it on 4th and 1 to not allow the Lions to get one more chance to try and tie this game. So, fascinating game. I thought Jalen Hurts' scrambling ability was a huge aspect in what allowed them to win. AJ Brown, I believe, had a career high in receiving yards of 155. So great way to join your new team doing that. And again, the fighting Dan Campbell's never quit.
Never quit. 2 fourth quarter touchdowns, which
Hmm.
killed my Eagles -5.5 pick, but whatever. Um, Hurt a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Eagles, I thought for stretches looked really good and like the team that was people are hyped about. I
Hmm.
thought came to fruition. And then at times I thought they looked pretty mediocre as this Detroit team came at them. And, this Detroit team could match them a little bit. They came pound for pound at times. DJ Chark, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I thought did some really good stuff pass catching game. DeAndre Swift broke multiple big plays in the running game. Yeah, it was just interesting to kind of see these teams go at it. It felt like that the Eagles at one point were going to coast. But like you said, the Lions just kept coming back at them. They kept coming at them and making plays.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that. I guess. So, how do we feel about this game? Is the way we feel. Do we feel concerned? So, for the Eagles, I think to me, the Lions are still a rebuilding team. I'm not
Yeah.
looking at them to be a playoff team just yet. They might, and that's just how I view it. Preseason predictions are, you hope to get like 80% right? Because they're hard. But for the Eagles, I think I do have high expectations for them. Do we feel good about the fact that they scored 38 points, or do we feel bad about the fact that they gave up 35, or is it both?
Um, I think it's fair to say both right now
Hmm.
because I felt like that, my my Jalen Hurts thing right now is I think bad secondaries he's going to be able to torch.
Hmm.
Just because of his ability to run by himself, time, make plays happen, and with having now a true number one, I want to see him against a good second because like even the most optimistic Lions fan had to say the secondary is not where it needs to be a competitive football team.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and he was able to kind of get at them at some times. I mean, it wasn't an awesome passing day, but he still had a pretty good day. And obviously, AJ Brown was able to go off. So I think you could say it's good though that they still were able to make some big plays, run the ball well, do some really nice things. I think on an offense, but at the same time, yes, this game opened up and got a little crazy, but you shouldn't be giving up 35 points at this team, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I have one more question about the other team now. For Dan Campbell and for the Lions, at what point do we say, okay, enough being the team that never quits and almost comes back and wins games? You have to start actually winning games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know when that's gonna happen.
Hmm.
I don't know. Like, I'm not ready to say that this season. Like, if this team like wins 4 games, 3 games, or something at the end of the year, like I'm not ready to say fire Dan Campbell. But we'll see because eventually you're going to start wanting to win games. I think that he's going to have another year in him. But yeah, I mean, if it keeps happening, obviously the questions are going to start.
Yeah. I see someone in the chat said year three. I think I agree. I think you're still allowed to be the team because I think we know what talent you have. We know who you are. We'll give you one more year to be the team that fights hard. But then, the following year, that's when you have to get results.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what this Lions team is going forward. Obviously, I don't think Jared Goff is set in stone. But yeah, I mean, you look at across this offense where this offense might just actually be fun this year. With
Uh-huh.
DeAndre Swift and his explosiveness, Jamal Williams, I think, is a good backup. And then now it looks like that, Hawkinson and Amon-Ra St. Brown coming on to end the season last year. If you got those two and DJ Chark, who I think is a solid number 2, number 3 guy, maybe this offense is just fun this year too.
Yeah, yeah, that could. I think I agree. Yeah, it should be fascinating. Again, in the fourth quarter, the Lions, if they're getting blown out, they always find a way.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's go to let's do Raiders Chargers here. Uh, you know, I think the way I have to start it off with is listen. You won't find too many bigger Derek Carr fans than me, right? Outside of actual Raiders fans, love Derek Carr, big fan of Derek Carr. This was not Derek Carr's best day. In fact, this is one of his worst performances. I mean, he had 3 interceptions. A couple of them were just bad interceptions. He if he plays like how he typically plays, the Raiders probably win this game.
Yeah, probably. Because, yeah, I mean, the first one, he definitely shorted the ball. And then the second one, I mean, he threw it off his back foot, like skied in the air. And there, Adams had a step that if he was able to step into it, it's probably a touchdown. But at the same time, he just wasn't getting that arm that he needed on that ball. I mean, this box score is just unreal. And I was watching the game and it's just unreal. Devontae Adams, very good, obviously. 17 of 35 targets for Devontae Adams.
Uh huh.
Like, that's just unnatural. Like, that can't be the plan this season, is it? Like, is that actually the plan? I don't
Well,
know.
I feel like they did that with like Darren Waller like week 1 last year, right? Against the Ravens. They just like every pass went to him.
Yeah, and obviously he had a fantastic game, but like,
Hmm.
I don't know. It just felt really weird to me watching this Raiders offense. I mean, I don't really know. Like, I think this was another one where they like kind of fell behind, and although they were having success running the football, like they kind of had to abandon it because they needed points, and they were able to start getting points. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great day for Carr, but it's just like I don't really know what to think about this Chargers team. And I guess here's my thing with the Chargers, and I feel like I watch this Chargers team a lot, and like everything looks great for the Chargers all the time. And I watch the
Hmm.
Chargers and it's like, okay, the defense has forced a couple turnovers and Justin Herbert has 250 yards and 3 touchdowns and it's the, middle of the fourth quarter. Everything should be great. And then all of a sudden they're punting the ball away up 5, 24-19 and the Raiders have a chance to go down and win the game. And it's just
Hmm.
like, I don't like, there's no statistic that's going to tell me how this happens, but like, how does this happen? How does this keep happening to this team where I feel like this team should blow people out? Like, if you're a
Right.
believer, there are people on, around the world who think the Chargers should be a Super Bowl contender this year with the talent they had. Isn't this a game where the other quarterback's turning the ball over 3 times that you should go win this one like 35-15 or something like that?
Right. When you win the turnover battle 3-0 and you only win by 5, like that's usually not a great sign actually, because typically that means that it's because, turnovers can be fluky. So I get what you're saying. And you're right. It's like Justin Herbert was incredible in this game. It feels like every time I don't know. I'm also with you. I don't really know what my point of finger on because you're right. It feels like their defense was incredible. Their offense was incredible. And they scored 24 points and gave up 19. It's like, well, that can't be true then. Like clearly something else must
Yeah.
have happened because like that, and you want to turn over about 3-0.
Yeah, and it's the thing is like yeah, Keenan Allen was out. Or he went out early in this game. But at the same time, like
Uh-huh.
they were still moving the ball when Keenan Allen was, came out of the game initially. They got a couple of those touchdowns as soon as he went out of the game. Like, I just don't understand. Like, they basically just sat on their hands for the second half of this game. I mean, it worked out because they still got the first touchdown. They won the game. But, like, It seemed like as soon as they took a big lead in this game, they were really ready to just run the ball into a pile for 3 straight carries, punt the ball away, and try and get out of this game as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I also think that, I would also say, very, the fact that they were still able to get out of this and win this game with, not being, no JC Jackson, no Keenan Allen is very impressive. And,
Yeah.
to me, I think how I feel is I still don't love the talent in this cornerback room. But again, corners are trying to predict coverage. I always say most difficult thing to do. They played very well today, and I think the scheme really helps them. It does not put a lot of pressure on them. And to me, this is the first time I feel like I saw the Brandon Staley defense kind of work for the Chargers. Right, last year it didn't really work. It worked better this year. Maybe it's adding Khalil Mack, who had 3 sacks in this one.
Yeah.
Asante Samuel Jr. had an interception in this one. Again, it's a very, very fascinating game as a whole. Joey Bosa, a sack and a half as well. So it's just like this maybe to have the star talent to kind of make this star reliant defense finally work now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it might be the case, and I think that they did have a very good game overall for this defense. The one thing is, like, obviously, they jumped out to the huge league, like I said. I still feel like you can run on this team, and I still feel like the Raiders were able to run on them. But yeah, I mean, this is a good win for the Chargers with like you said, their best corner who they paid a lot of money for going out, with Keenan Allen leaving early in this game. This is a good win for them, so you can't fault it too much. I keep watching this team, and I had those questions. And you know what? They beat a playoff team from last season, so you got to feel good about that.
I think it's fair to have the questions. I think we'll have to wait and see more before we can really get the answers to those questions. I think it's fair to be excited if you're a Chargers fan. I definitely get it. I also think it's fair to say if the Raiders play up to their potential, they probably do win this game, though. So that's kind of the concern.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's go to. We have 3 games left. Let's do Chiefs at Cardinals. Let's stay with the AFC West. Mahomes was fine in this one.
Yeah, he was just all right. It looks like he's going to have some real trouble without wide receivers, I think, going forward. So, real concern that they have to address.
Right. I mean, so I guess this is the difference between like the Chiefs and the Packers, right? The Packers lose Devontae Adams and do really try to piece it together with peanuts. It feels like even if you don't love all of the pieces that the Chiefs added, they still did go out and get Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Sky Moore, all who had contributions in some way in this game. It also helped that to me, the biggest takeaway, Cardinals are playing cover 2 like every other team does for the Chiefs. The Chiefs had no issue with it. And that's something that's been plaguing them for years. And if they've got this figured out, I think the entire league has to watch out.
It could be, but at the same time, like the Cardinals were blitzing like crazy in this game. They threw a ton of blitzes.
Even when they were playing just cover 2, they weren't having success.
Yeah, I mean, they still had success. I don't know. I felt like, I might reevaluate this Chiefs team on Thursday when they got a big game against the Chargers, who, even though they might be down a couple guys I still think are going to be a competitive matchup. But, we were kind of selling this Cardinals secondary, and it looked every bit as terrible as we thought it might be.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes, but obviously, you can't fault it too much because they passed every test that we had. They answered every question that we had for them in week 1 with flying colors, right? Juju Smith-Schuster looks like he's really good in against these zone defenses, like you said, they're going to match up with. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a couple big plays out of the backfield, including 2 touchdown catches. Travis Kelce is obviously awesome. Everybody looked like they did their part in this game, and it looked like it's going to be the Chiefs are just going to roll. They're going to keep rolling right now. You can't fault them for what they did in this one.
Right. I mean, yeah, the Chiefs look like they are every bit the you can't call them a dynasty. They don't have one championship, but I don't know, the new evil empire, right? If it's not the Patriots anymore, it's an Arrowhead.
It might be at this point. I mean, yeah, I still think they need win a little bit more before we call them that. But right now, I mean, it's hard not to say that this team isn't the favorite in the AFC after this performance.
I think you could probably still put other teams there.
Well, we haven't got to the Thursday game. That's true.
But yeah, I get your point that they are, they're one of the. It's very easy to say that they should be the favorite. Uh, the Cardinals were not great here. A lot of people were making jokes about the Kyler Murray playing video games and stuff here. This was not a. Is DeAndre Hopkins just like the only does he just make the Cardinals great? And when he's there, the Cardinals are great, and when he's not there, the Cardinals just aren't that good.
Yeah, probably. Which yeah, it helps to hell have an elite receiver. But yeah, I mean, the data backs up that this team is not very explosive without him on the field. And in this game again, I know they got the 2 touchdowns at the end of the game. It was what 44-7 at that point. I'm not taking anything away from those 2 touchdowns at the end of the game. Um,
Hmm.
this team looks lackluster when he's not on the field, and it once again looked like they're lackluster. Um, all the Hollywood Brown hype, I think he had the touchdown at the one of the touchdowns at the end. I'm
Hmm.
still not buying into it. We'll see, but yeah, I mean, not a great return from this Arizona offense and this passing attack that we were hoping for. And it's just the only takeaway, the only good thing from the Cardinals offense is that the defense looked that much worse. So there's going to be more questions about that.
Well, it's like their offense wasn't ideal, but like okay, their offense looked like an NFL offense. I mean, this defense
Yeah.
was just it. We had the concerns about their secondary. They didn't even play Mullen, the guy who they just added. It just looks. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know why this was their plan heading into the season when they were a playoff team last year. Why they didn't go out and add more talent? And maybe they know something I don't. And maybe this was just the Chiefs being the Chiefs. But I think my week 1 overreaction is the Cardinals are not going anywhere.
Yeah. I'm selling the, I had them missing the playoffs anyways, but I'm selling them a lot more after this week. Maybe they could talk me back into it a little bit. Um, just not buying into this team and what they were able to produce. I mean, Kyler Murray, who look the contract they just gave him because they want this offense to be that good. You can't be approaching the Gabbert zone. You just can't.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe this Chiefs defense is better than we thought, which I think there was really promising returns from this Chiefs defense, which all of a sudden might have one of the best linebacking cores in the league. Um, I don't know. You can't be doing stuff like that when they've invested a lot in this offense to be successful with Cliff Kingsbury, with Kyler Murray, with going to get a guy spending a first round pick on Hollywood Brown,
Hmm.
even without DeAndre Hopkins, you can't be this lackluster.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, and I like Kyler. I think Kyler's very good. Like I don't think that, like if but like I think it's more of the situation and stuff. The Cardinals are just I don't know making interesting moves. I don't know how much I like some of the stuff they're doing. They look like they could be a real in for real disappointment this season potentially.
It's possible. We'll see if they can get some of these guys healthy, but at the same time, like I said, the returns in week 1 are not promising. This offensive line still looks really old, and they
Hmm.
are old. So yeah, I mean, I don't really know. Like a couple of guys get healthy, Rondell Moore and JJ Watt get healthy. Are you really buying into that's going to fix the season?
Yeah, no, I'm not, and that's why so there are people who are in the chat saying like half our team was out. Yes, they weren't. They did have the share of inactives and all that stuff as well. But I still feel like I don't think it's a full excuse. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's week 1. Maybe I'm overreacting.
Maybe, but I mean, at the same time, like, yeah, I mean, it is week 1 overreaction. But at the same time, this is it fair to say this might have been the worst week looking team of week 1?
I would say most disappointing.
Yeah, and I mean, 2 of their teams that we picked to make the playoffs look terrible in week 1, and they might have looked worse than them.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Let's move on. Let's go to we have 2 games left. Let's do the Thursday night game and then we'll finish with the last one. Let's go to the Bills Rams. This was, I think closer than the score indicates, right? Like it was a competitive game for a while. I felt like both teams were kind of sloppy right away, but the Bills eventually found their groove. Josh Allen had the 3 turnovers in the first half, but they eventually found their groove and really never looked back. The Rams were just sort of sloppy throughout.
Um, yeah, I mean, I actually didn't really even feel like it was that close. I didn't watch this live, so I asked kind of what happened, and then went back and retroactively looked at some of this stuff. And I mean, if the Bills don't mess around and turn the ball over 4 times, they might win this game 50-10, honestly. Like
Sure.
I didn't like a lot what I was seeing from the Rams in this one. I thought the offense looked sloppy. I thought Stafford obviously struggled. Not a great stat line for him. Yeah, I mean, it seems like the Bills shot themselves in the foot a few times to make this close, and it was 10-10 at halftime, and it felt like their Rams had no business being in this game. And then the Bills kind of just like, okay, let's stop turning the football over and put the game away at 131-10.
Yeah, it really did feel like once the only thing that was stopping the Bills from scoring was the Bills.
Yeah, it really did. And it was one of those games where it's like, okay, good Josh Allen. It's like inevitable what he's going to be able to do. I still think he takes crazy hits. I mean, the
Hmm.
guy is throwing like legitimate stiff arms with his throwing hand. And you're
Uh,
just like, okay, the stiff arm's awesome, but what the hell are you doing? It's just like,
right.
it works out for him because he's a tank, so it doesn't
Hmm.
matter. Is okay, so I guess let's rein ourselves in here. Is it fair to be concerned about the Rams, or do you think just week one trophy ceremony? Let's throw this game out and reevaluate the Rams going forward.
I definitely think it's fair. I mean, we had concerns about the Rams, right? Because you have these prior concerns, and then you want to see like, was that fair or was it not fair? I had some concerns about the Bills receiving depth. I think immediately I'm like, okay, well that doesn't seem to be the case. Seems like that's actually pretty good. So I was probably wrong about that. The Rams, I had concerns about like their secondary depth. That did not play well this game. Like that was an
Mhm.
issue. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it is an issue. Maybe the Bills just played well, but it's a concern that do not feel better about after week one, at least.
Yeah. And Jalen Ramsey wasn't good in this game, which was the one thing we thought would
Mm.
be good about the secondary. Then,
Uh-huh.
obviously the numbers came out and
Although I
people love
have
to
to
clap.
say, yeah, sorry to interrupt. I have to say, one of those was a blown coverage, right? Like, I know that everyone loves to make fun of like Jalen Ramsey, but like big touchdown catch on a blown coverage is a little different than like just getting beat.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that we can really start to buy into a little bit more of this Gabe Davis hype. I thought he was really good in this game.
Hmm.
The Bills still can't run the ball, but it doesn't seem like it matters when you
Yeah,
have
who
Josh
cares?
Allen on that side of the field.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I just think like so the Andrew Whitworth thing looks like it's going to hurt this Rams team. This offensive line wasn't great. Now you
Hmm.
could say, oh, the Bills front four is awesome, which it is. It was a really good front four. They've invested a lot and they're deep. But at the same time, when you look at this team where they play San Francisco twice, they play this Kansas City front four, which I thought looked pretty good. They play the Saints front four, which I thought is pretty good. They play Tampa's front four, which is obviously very good. They play, Green Bay's front four, I don't think is bad at all. Denver's front four can get after the quarterback. Los Angeles Chargers front four can get after the quarterback. Like, if this offensive line doesn't fix itself, this is not the schedule you want to have a bad offensive line against. And I don't think all of this was on the offensive line. I thought some of them Stafford held the ball too long, but at the same time, it definitely wasn't, when you're getting 2.9 yards per carry and Stafford's getting sacked 7 times, you can't say the offensive line's good.
Right. Yeah. Cam Akers with the stat line of 3 carries for 0 yards. Not ideal. Right. And losing Von Miller hurts. Right. Who now they had to go up and play against. Von Miller sacked Stafford twice in this one, so that's not good. Right. You're right. Losing Whitworth, even though the Note Boom has has pedigree. You believe he can be successful. But still, you know, I just think that as a whole, the depth, they need to figure this stuff out. And this has kind of always been the Rams' issue, right? And the
Yeah.
Rams have been a consistently championship contending team who is coming off of a championship, but like they've always been kind of a star driven team. And now they've lost some of those stars. They lost, I'm not sure if you call Darius Williams a star, but he's certainly a good player. You lose Von Miller, you lose Whitworth. Like it's going to be hard to replace those guys when you are kind of built the way the Rams are.
Yeah. And I think some of this stuff's going to fix it. I think some of this stuff's going to fix itself. I don't think the defense is going to play this bad all the time. I think, the Allen Robinsons I think are going to play better. I think they're going to have better, a little more consistent running the football too. Like I'm not selling this team completely, but there are things I'm circling about this team that I'm a little concerned about.
Yeah. The flip side, I mean, the Bills look like, I think the Bills totally look like championship contenders.
Yeah, I mean, so you had two concerns about this Bills team heading into this season. You had
Hmm.
concerns about the secondary receiver,
Uh huh.
Gabe Davis, Jamison Crowder, both good. Isaiah McKenzie catches the touchdown pass, converts in the red zone, very good.
Hmm.
And you had concern about the cornerbacks corner spot, the second corner A and B, these corners trying to survive these first few weeks without Trey White. And these
Right.
corners, I didn't think they were amazing, but they were obviously very good. They made some
Hmm.
big plays. Dane Jackson came up with the interception too. So everything that we had questions about with this Bills team that might say, okay, these are our biggest red flags when it comes to the Bills, they passed them all. They looked really good in this game. And I mean, we'll reevaluate it going forward, but I mean, you can't say that those are problems going into next week.
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, and they're just again a blast to watch. This should be very Bills. We all kind of want the Bills to win a Super Bowl, right? I mean, like maybe I
No.
don't know if you want it because it's your division. I feel like most people that aren't directly aren't a fan of the team in the division. No, most people that aren't Patriots fans want to see the Bills win in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I think the city would obviously go crazy.
Yeah,
But we've seen this Bill teams be really talented the last couple of years. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, they look like maybe them and the Chiefs had the most impressive week ones, and those are the teams we were kind of circling as maybe the teams to beat in this conference.
yeah, should be fascinating. Last game to talk about: Ravens Jets. The Jets. They tried.
They
They went out
tried.
there. They wore football uniforms and then they played football. No, I'm being a bit hard. I thought the Jets actually played decent in this game. I didn't think that they embarrassed themselves or anything. I thought Jets defense looked solid. I thought this
Mhm.
Ravens defense was completely suffocating and they weren't getting anything going.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. This Ravens defense with this Ravens defense healthy, I mean, Joe Flacco threw the ball 59 times for 5 yards an attempt. I
Uh,
mean, it was really impressive what they were able to do. Yeah, I mean, I'm buying into this defense being really good. I think the one thing, like, obviously, we'll see how this goes. Like, they had some pretty explosive plays in the passing game, which I was impressed with. Like, if this Ravens team, I don't think this secondary is terrible. I think it's okay. You know, if this Ravens team all of a sudden has receivers, like, does that change things in how we look at the Ravens?
Probably, but we already really like the Ravens too. I mean, like
Yeah.
the biggest concern about the Ravens is just like can these guys get? I think my biggest concern about them though is can they win against man coverage against like a good man coverage team, which I don't think we've learned anything from this game about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be the question going forward. I mean, they didn't really they were kinda coasting on offense, it felt like at times. They didn't Lamar Jackson's gonna have 6 carries in this game for Lamar might be the lowest he has this season,
Uh
right?
huh. Right.
Um, I don't remember ever seeing a Ravens game where they've thrown the ball 30 times and run the ball 21 times in this Lamar Jackson era. And I just don't see
Hmm.
that really happening again. Um, so yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
felt like they were coasting at times, but I thought there was really positive reviews for week one for Rashad Bateman, for Devin Duvernay. Those two guys I thought had some pretty big plays in this game that, could be interesting to watch this team going forward.
Yeah. It should be fascinating. Is this the best thing to happen for Zach Wilson that the offense did
Yes.
not look good
Yeah.
when he was out? Yeah. This is great.
Yeah, this is great for him. Now he can go and say, okay, there's not going to be a controversy if Joe Flacco is awesome because he wasn't awesome. They're going to face worse defenses because this might be one of the better ones, but at the same time, uh, yeah, I mean, you got to feel pretty good if you're a Zach Wilson stan. I think after this one, and hope he can play better than this.
And I am a Zach Wilson stan, so there you go.
Yeah. Um, we'll see how it goes with the Jets going forward. The offense
Yeah.
doesn't look fantastic. I'll say that.
Yeah, but also like week one Ravens, they always just seemingly are great. So fun stuff there, and Lamar Jackson building his case for why he should get paid. A lot of interesting stuff. Kyle, that's our show.
That's our show. We did it. End to the
We
end.
did.
End of the show. End of week one. One more game tomorrow night. Looking forward to that.
Are
Should
you?
be good. A little bit. Russell Wilson back to Seattle. I mean, there's some narrative there.
I guess so.
What's the better scenario? That Russell Wilson throws for like 5 touchdowns tomorrow and dominates, or that the Seahawks make a game of this?
Oh, if the Seahawks were to like win by like 20, that would be. I'd love that. I don't know why. That just seems like fun to me.
Yeah, it'd be pretty hilarious. Like Geno Smith goes off, the offensive tackles play great, and all of a sudden there's a good offensive line.
No, no.
That'd be pretty fun.
Here's how it works. It's the running game is what carries it. Though it's all running game, just the way that Pete Carroll always wanted. Of like just like it's like his philosophy. Actually, like Russell Wilson can't figure out the cover 3 zone. That's the way it works.
Just 3.5 yards in a cloud of dust. So it's
Yeah.
that would be pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it should be an interesting game though. I'll see. We'll see how I put a lot of investment into this Broncos team this season, so still kind of buying what they're selling. We'll see how it looks in week 1.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you to everybody who watched along live or watched after the fact or listened to after the fact. If you like to listen to the podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, we have the audio only version available. So certainly check that out. Kyle, let me know where you can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin, and make sure to follow the account page. That's at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK on Twitter.
Yes. Yeah. Again, thanks to everyone. We had a lively chat tonight. We do appreciate it. We had consistently over 300 people watching live, so we do always appreciate that. Even the people that were, I feel like people tend to be pretty mean. First couple weeks in the season. There's always been more mean comments now than there are later.
It's okay. We get, we are brick walls, man. We take the criticism. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, even if it's wrong.
That's exactly. It's this one just Kirk Cousins still sucks, Jackson. Okay, sure, fine. I think he's okay.
If you really want to get at Jackson, make Kellen Mond jokes, not Kirk Cousins.
How dare you, sir? Don't even bring up that name around me.
Rough time for Kellen Mond stands.
Yeah, listen, some hits and some misses, right? Can't win them all.
Yeah, draft's a crapshoot sometimes anyway, especially quarterback.
Yes, exactly. Again, thank you to everybody. We do appreciate it. Kyle, any final thoughts before we head out?
Looking forward to Monday night. Looking forward to being back here Wednesday. Good chance that I'm in the lead for picks if I end up, the Broncos are able to close the deal tomorrow. So let's see how it goes.
All right. Yes, see how it goes. Again, thank you, everybody. Again, we do appreciate it. And until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.